Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurbani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading session of Bhagavad Gita. Today I would like to share or read out verse number 7 from chapter number 15 of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Mamayevamsho jivaloke jivabhutaha sanatanaha manaha shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati Mamayevamsho jivaloke jivabhutaha sanatanaha manaha shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati Mama, my, eva, certainly, amshaha, fragmental particle, jiva loke, in the world of conditional life, jiva bhuta, the conditioned living entity, sanatanaha, eternal, manaha, with the mind, sashthani, the six, indriyani, senses, prakriti, in material nature, sthani, situated, karshati, is struggling hard. Translation: the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatanaha. So here I pause. The living entity is Sanatan. It's not that in the conditioned life he is part of the Supreme Lord, separate entity, and when he is liberated, he is one with the Lord. No, it's not like that. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. We are also expansion of Krishna, but we are living entities. We are not primary expansions. Primary expansions of Krishna are Vishnu Tattva and secondary expansions are living entities, Jiva Tattva. So we are also called separated expansions, Bibhinnamsha. I read further. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Ram, Narasimha Deva, Vishnu Murti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead, are always present. So in the personal expansions of the Godhead, the identity of Godhead are always present. Same Vishnu Tattva. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities as fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. So living entities are fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord. That's why they have the quality identities in a very small quantity. And it is said that the living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Independence is one of the qualities of the living entities. Of course, that is the inherent quality of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is Swarat, independent. Every living entity as an individual soul has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. So he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. This was mentioned in the verse, Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Karshati means struggling very hard. Who is struggling very hard? Living entities are. Why? Because they are situated in the material nature. They are sthani, situated in the material nature. So going to read further, the living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati, struggling or grappling hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. He is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good, and when the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome, and when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses. When he is liberated, this material covering perishes, but his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyan Dina Yana Shruti. Madhyan Dina Yana Shruti. Sava Esha Brahma Nishta Idam Shariram Martyam Atishrijya Brahma Bhishampadya Brahmana Pashyati Brahmana Shrinoti Brahma Naivedam Sarvam Anubhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body, and in his spiritual body he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. From Smriti also it is understood, Vasanti Yatra Purushaha Sarve Vaikuntha Murtayaha. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies featured like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So everybody's feature is like the feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansion of Vishnu Murti. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnu Murti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Mamai Vamshaha, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word Sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehi no asmin yatha dehe. The fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. Why does it say a spiritual planet? Why does it say a spiritual planet? Because there are innumerable spiritual planets in the spiritual sky. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcels of gold are also gold. So, dear devotees, if you cut off a tiny piece of gold from a big lump of gold, the tiny bit of gold has the same quality as the big lump of gold. In the same way, we are part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. In quantity, we are same, but in quality, there is difference. The Supreme God is like an ocean, and if the Supreme God is like an ocean, we are like a drop, tiny drop from that ocean. Thank you so much. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Vaishnava Acharyas. Hare Krishna.